All right, let's talk about hip-hop, but probably not in the way you're used to. We're going to look at it through a completely different lens. See, we're not just talking about beats, rhymes, or history. We're diving into this idea that hip-hop is, well, a system for connecting with something deeper, something sacred even. So yeah, let's get into it.
So, this one sentence. This is the whole thing right here. Hip-hop is a spiritual technology. It just wears sneakers. Just let that sit for a second. I mean, that's a pretty wild claim, isn't it? But stick with me, because by the time we're done here, I promise you'll understand exactly what that means. And honestly, it might totally change how you hear your favorite tracks forever.
Okay, so to really wrap our heads around this, let's start with a really cool metaphor. I want you to imagine this place, this world called Americana. And in Americana, the different styles of hip-hop, they're not just genres. No, they're sacred rituals, each one with its own unique spiritual job to do.
So first up in this world, we've got something called Krunkasaur. You can probably guess, this is basically the Aurelian version of crunk music. But it's not just about getting hyped in the club. Here, it's a full-on fire ritual. It's all about release. You've got these explosive drums, these massive group chants. What's it for? Protest, initiation. It's a ceremony of pure, raw movement. It's designed to get your body and your spirit moving.
Now, on the complete opposite end of that spectrum, you've got sacred reflection. In the world of Arkarekana, this is called Kuhazuba Soul. And the sound? Totally different. Think ambient melodies, drum patterns that sound like a heartbeat. The whole purpose here is to heal, to speak deep truths, and to connect with the ancestors. It's a tool for going inward, you know?
And this contrast is what's so cool, right? It shows you the incredible range of this whole system. On one hand, you have Krunkasaur, this powerful ritual for outward release. And on the other, you have something like Kimi Step, which is this quiet, chill wave meditation for studying and just reflecting. And here's the key. They're both seen as totally sacred. They just have different jobs to do.
So this is where we get to the real heart of it. What if this whole Arekana idea, what if it's not just some fantasy? What if it's actually a key? A way to unlock a hidden layer of meaning in the music we already know and love. To really see that, though, we've got to define the engine driving this whole concept.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks. The entire idea here hangs on one single phrase, spiritual technology. So, what on earth does that even mean?
Okay, simply put, a spiritual technology is anything that does a few key things. It channels your inner truth, it wakes up a collective memory, and it transmits energy, through sound or movement or storytelling. And why? To connect you, the individual, to something bigger than yourself, whether that's the divine, your ancestors, or your community. At its core, it's a tool for connection.
And look, this isn't nearly as out there as it might sound. We see these kinds of technologies all over the place. Think about it. A chant in a temple, a sacred object someone holds, a coded language that only a specific group understands, a certain dance or rhythm, even a beat that's just carved into your breath. These are all tools humans have used for thousands of years to connect to something more.
Okay, so we've got our definition. Now for the big question. How does this actually apply to hip-hop? Let's break down how a simple rap track can function as one of these powerful technologies.
Let's look at a track. It really breaks down into three core components. First, you've got the voice as a portal. A rapper's flow, it's so much more than just rhyming, right? It's like a modern-day sound spell. A way to reclaim who you are, to resist, to remember. Then there's rhythm as memory. That beat is more than just a backing track. It echoes ancestral drums. It becomes this ritual clock that the story is told against. And finally, you have the cipher as a sacred circle. I mean, a group freestyle, that's a ritual of collective energy, right? It's about sharing, witnessing, and lifting each other up.
And boom, this chart right here, this is where it all snaps together. You can think of this as like the master key to this whole idea. Look how a rapper's flow, their freestyle, maps directly onto these elemental ideas of flame and wind. That heavy beat, whether it's boom bap or trap, connects to the earth pulse. And get this, even the swagger and style, the clothes, the slang, that's a form of spiritual shield. It's all connected.
This quote just nails it. My voice is my weapon. My verse is my survival. When you really start to see it through this lens, a single rap bar is no longer just a lyric. It becomes a sacred affirmation. It's a declaration of power, of existence, especially in a world that might be trying to silence you.
All right, let's bring this whole thing back down to earth. How does this theory actually show up in the artists and the music we listen to every day?
This is where it gets really good.
So remember that Kwazuba soul from Americana, that sacred, reflective stuff? Well, that maps perfectly onto conscious rappers like Kendrick Lamar or Mos Def. And Traka Trap, which is all about facing your darker side, that's the spiritual twin of trap music from artists like Future or Migos. And Kela Flow, the wisdom of the elders, that's the absolute essence of old-school legends like KRS-One and Gang Starr. The patterns, they're right there, they're identical.
And it's really not a stretch at all when you think about the themes these artists tackle, right? I mean, Kendrick Lamar's work is absolutely packed with prophetic, biblical-level questions about morality. Tupac was all about channeling grief and sacred rebellion. Lauryn Hill gave us these powerful lessons on feminine power and spiritual warnings. And Chance the Rapper, he literally brought gospel into mainstream rap. These artists are, for all intents and purposes, practitioners of a spiritual art.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's pretty simple. Hip-hop is spiritual. It just doesn't wear robes or chant in ancient temples. It doesn't fit our old-school picture of what spirituality is supposed to look like. Its temple might be a street corner or a recording booth. Its sacred texts are scribbled in rhyme books. And its prayers, well, they're blasted through car speakers. And that really brings us to this final thought. A spiritual practice can live in silence, or a mixtape, and a sermon can sound like a cipher if you're listening right. So the next time you put on your headphones to listen to your favorite track, just listen a little closer. You might be surprised. You might just hear a prayer, a prophecy, or a psalm, hiding in plain sight, just wearing sneakers.